Culture swap.
Culture swap? Swap my culture. Oh god, we both did both.
Alright, Amanda, let's hear what we were doing and why.
Okay, we were reading Ghost World, the graphic novel by Daniel Clowes. I can't pronounce his last name. Clowes, whatever the fuck it is. And then...
Yep.
And then also watching the movie Ghost World that was based on the graphic novel. And I suggested this because you guys had asked me to be on the podcast. And I had heard Liam mention that he wanted to read this at one point on the podcast. And I read this for a graphic narrative class last year and did I led a whole class discussion on it.
Ooh,
fair
so
enough.
You're going to know a lot about this.
I mean, I'm not like an expert, but I know a fair amount. And I also like used some clips from the film because we didn't watch the movie for the class, but I love the movie and I saw the movie years before I ever read the graphic novel.
Yeah.
And
Right, that's kind of perfect, because my big concern with this was I wasn't sure how I was going to talk about the graphic novel without comparing it to the film, because I love the film so much that when I was reading it, like, anything about it that I didn't like in my head I was just like, well, the reason why I didn't like it is because the film did either it better or it was missing in the film.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of excited to hear like more about the comic itself separate from the film, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, the first time I read this, I had to definitely go like, okay, stop thinking about the movie and focus on the comic. I mean, because I was reading it for a class where we were reading comics. So,
Yeah.
And I had to analyze it in like a very academic, like breaking down panel by panel in some places. But one of the things, because Liam, you had seen the movie, and Jack, were you familiar with what this was at all?
No, I literally went in totally blind.
Okay. Well, here's one of the things that I was thinking about when I was rereading this again this morning. And just so it was, I wanted it to be fresh in my mind when we were discussing it. So I woke up early and reread it. And I don't know if you noticed, I mean, the coloring of it, it's very, I don't know, just sort of like that greenish blue color throughout.
Yeah.
So the author did that on purpose so that it looked like the light that comes from a television into like reflecting on your face when you're watching it.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that's why it's like that tone. And I feel like that kind of, I don't know, that kind of helps you understand like where he's coming from, of like the sort of like malaise that's through the whole book.
That makes sense. I can see that now. Because there's a lot of bits where, not that TVs are like the central point of a scene, but there'll be bits where they're, the discussion they're having around the points they're making are about like a TV show that they're watching and stuff like that. Like the Terrible Comedian.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Especially like the first like two stories in it like seems to be a lot of scenes around TVs, and it sort of tapers off more towards the end, I'd say.
Well, there's one of the last stories in the graphic novel when they're having their argument and Becky's watching the TV, but it's like white noise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think part of that, I think it's also to kind of make a statement about the US and how the TV is just always on and always there somewhere in the background.
Yeah.
But, well, what did you guys think? Because I really love this, but I know, like, having read this with a class and presented it, like, a discussion, and I was, like, 10 years older than most of the people in that class. And
okay.
So, I'm on the other side of having just, not having just graduated high school. And so, like, I don't know, the kids, to sound like a granny, they seem to like really not like Enid and not get her. Yeah. Like some of them are just like, oh, she's so annoying. Like, really? Because she just seems like a 19-year-old to me.
Oh yeah, 100%.
I wasn't, again, I don't know if it's like the film that's affecting my judgment on this, but I much preferred Rebecca to Enid as a character.
In both the film and the book, or?
Yeah, so that used to be very different when I was younger. I was all about Enid in the film. But in both the kind of recent watch of the film I did, and when I was reading the book, I definitely found Enid very, very different in the book, I guess. She seems, in the book, she seems a lot more forward thinking, like about her future and stuff. But I still, I don't know if it's like a teenagey thing, but it's one of those things where it's like she's trying so hard to present herself in a certain way, but there's like little glimpses that that's not who she necessarily wants to be.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it's that she's trying to, in a way, like, be counterculture and not truly like anything.
Yeah.
I mean, as some people would say, like, the ultimate hipster. Like, she's too
Yes.
cool for all of this, but you can tell she actually does like some of these things, but she doesn't want to let on to that.
Yeah. Like, her sort of relationship with Josh kind of highlights that, I think.
I think that, and then there's also the bit with the where she wants to find an old record that she used to listen to,
Yeah.
which her dad then finds for her, and like that whole scene or that whole story was kind of like, oh, clearly she's doing this whole like, oh, fuck everyone, and then it's like, I want that song again, and then she's really sad and just listens to that music, and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's the same story where she gets with Josh, and she sort of has a bit of a breakdown with him, where she says that she just totally hates herself.
Oh, that's right, that is that one, isn't it?
Yeah.
Do you guys need to do a spoiler thing?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
we probably should, yeah.
So there's gonna be spoilers. There's already been spoilers, and there's
There have
gonna be
already
more.
been spoilers. So if you're annoyed at us, we apologise.
But equally, like, this is Culture Swap, right? Like, if you've listened to it before, you'll know this is what we do. And if you're a first-time listener, we're sorry.
Hey, if it's anybody who listens to my podcast, they know I'm really bad at I can't do things without spoilers. So
Yeah, it's really hard to talk about stuff without spoiling it. I keep saying things when I'm reviewing stuff.
Okay, so back to Ghost World.
yes, back to Ghost
With
World.
all our spoilers, yeah.
Yeah, I love the scene where she goes to Josh and she has the breakdown. Because it's like one of the only times she's fully vulnerable.
Yes.
Yeah.
I did have a question about that scene.
Yes.
So they sort of make out, and she sort of implies that she wants to have sex, and then she has the breakdown, right?
Yeah.
And then I'm pretty sure later on she's talking to, I think, Rebecca, and she mentions that they had like a blowjob.
No. Rebecca says to her, and then you blew him or something. I don't think she actually did.
That's what I was going to ask. Like, is it deliberately left unclear, or were we supposed to assume that that happened?
I don't think it went beyond making out and maybe like heavy petting. I think that's more Rebecca sort of lashing out because clearly she likes Josh too.
Yeah.
And so it's sort of like her way of like, well, I don't know, passive aggressive, sort of aggressively, openly, like mocking Enid.
Okay.
That confused me as well. This whole thing's just going to be us being like, Amanda, help us, we don't understand. So, because after that happens, then Rebecca goes to Josh's.
Yeah.
And then from then on, Rebecca and Josh are like a thing. And Enid seems okay with it. And I was very confused by that.
Well, I don't know that Enid is okay with it as much as that's just sort of like she's resigned to it. And I think that's got to have a big part of her like leaving on the bus at the end.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Which
fair enough.
I like that ending in the film.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I don't want to keep comparing them, so I have to be careful. But I was curious reading it if they would do the same ending, and I was pleased that they did, because I feel like it is a very powerful way of ending that story. But in a way where it's like you're not really sure by the end like what she's actually learned, because she seems to just kind of like that idea of I'm just going to abandon everything and start kind of new does seem quite like not necessarily immature, but like running away from your problems.
Yeah. Well, and I'm thinking back correctly to my class, like there was also some discussion about where is she even going? Like this is supposedly the bus that doesn't run anymore. So is she really on the bus? Did she die?
Yeah.
Like there's kind of, you know, it could be an implication because even with the title, like Ghost World, and she leaves on this bus, is she really going on a bus with a tiny hat box, or is she dead?
Yeah, because I had that.
Oh.
I know Liam was saying, "Oh, let's avoid comparing," but fuck it, I'm a co-host too, and I can do whatever the hell I want. So I like in the film, I had that at the end where I was like, "Wait, is it all that this is like purgatory, and you leave when you learn a lesson or something?" Whereas in the graphic novel, I didn't have that till like that final scene. I was like, "Oh, maybe it's different here." And then that whole like the last 2 pages or more maybe, where like someone spray paints Ghost World. And she chases them and they sort of disappear down an alleyway and then suddenly she's on a bus and I was like, wait, what's happening here? Is it ghosts?
Well, I think the Ghost World graffiti, I mean, it's actually like spread all throughout the whole text.
Yes, yeah.
And so I think because there's also like the snapshot that when she and Becky are looking at the photo album of like...
Yeah, and it's on her garage.
Mm-hmm. So I don't know if it's that there's just some person who likes to, like, this is their tag, or if it's something more metaphysical. Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I always like interpreted the title as being, again, this is more drawn from the film than the book, as being how they both felt. Like, they both felt like outsiders. So they felt like they were just sort of traversing life as ghosts because they weren't really enjoying anything or having a lot of, like, I guess, meaningful interactions with other people.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, that's how I've always had interpreted Ghost World, not as being supernatural in any way. But I can see how it can be interpreted as like a purgatory because they are so withdrawn from the rest of the world.
Yeah. Another question. Mm-hmm. Is the last 2 pages, is there like a time jump between the stuff that came before that and those? Because her hair looks a little bit different, and then there's that scene where I'm assuming it's Rebecca she sees, who also is like wearing glasses and has different hair, but I might be wrong, and she says, "You've grown into a very beautiful young woman."
Yes. That's one thing I remember discussing, like, because if you look, I have the book out in front of me because
same.
I'm a
Yep, I'm
okay,
getting
good,
it out now.
I'm a literature major, so like, that's what I do. But like the first panel on the second to last page, like, you know, she's going past a school and you can see like the bare leaves on the tree. So that makes me think it's at least fall. Because also like when she's talking to Bob Skeeches, which I just love that name, but when she's talking to him on the beach, like there's this sense that it's like fall or winter. Like they're all wearing coats and they're bundled up and hats and things. So
yeah, and it looks windy.
Yeah. So I always took that as maybe it's been a few months, maybe not like a huge jump in time, like maybe not years.
Okay.
But I mean, it could also be because it's a completely different outfit, you could almost look at it as maybe she's gone off and she's come back and seen her town and she's leaving again.
Yeah. Because like that is supposed to be Rebecca she's seeing, isn't it?
Yes.
In the diner.
Mm-hmm.
Because she does look very different to how we've seen her throughout the rest of the book.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, I didn't notice what you're saying until literally you've pointed it out to me. But she does look, to me, she looks a lot older in those last pages, and I hadn't noticed that.
Mm.
So I think there might be a time jump. But then, yeah, I have no idea.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is some sort of time jump. It's just whether it's a handful of months or a handful of years is up for interpretation. Yeah.
And I guess then that almost, like, thinking about it, it almost lessens the impact of her just getting on a bus and disappearing. If it was years, it's like, because it is, you know, was she just in this town for years, or did she kind of go off somewhere and then come back?
Yeah. I like to think that it's only maybe a couple of months or something like that.
Okay.
But, yeah, I mean, you can make the argument for either one of those.
Yeah. So another kind of question going way back earlier in the book is that, I don't know if this is just me, but there seems to be, like, only very briefly hinted at, but some sort of sexual tension between the two. And I don't know if that's just how, like, teenage girls are around each other, or if that's very deliberate.
I think it's more that's just how teenage girls are together. Like,
okay.
For me, even as an adult woman, like, if I'm going to see a movie with a female friend, like, if it gets to a tense spot or something, like, if we're close friends, I'll grab her hand and hold it.
Yeah.
And especially teenage girls, there's something about like sitting around together with your legs over each other, or, you know, hanging out on the couch. Like, to me, it's much more of like a teenage girl thing. Because I also wondered, like, if what you would think about when Enid is talking on the phone with Becky and telling how she told somebody like the story of losing her virginity, and she's on the phone with Becky, but she's also like taking off her clothes and looking at her boobs in the mirror and stuff like that. And I mean, I don't know, because the author's a man, but that's also like, if you're just on the phone with your best friend, you're walking around the house and doing your own thing.
That bit, I didn't kind of think anything sexual. I'm trying to find the bit that kind of got me on this path of thinking, because it's when they're sat together on a bench holding hands.
Yeah.
And
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, there's
it's after
something...
they've seen the Satanist, quote-unquote Satanist woman buying a movie ticket by herself.
Yeah, that's right. Because there was another bit where I think earlier on Enid has kind of made some sort of like lesbian kind of comment or something, but like really offhanded throwaway. And then later on, Rebecca kind of makes another comment along those lines, and Enid reacts to it.
There's one later on where Rebecca's like saying something about how she can't find a guy or something, or no guys like her, and she says maybe I am a lesbian.
Yeah.
And then Enid's like, I think slightly shocked or like just says something, and then Rebecca's like, no, you don't have to worry.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think it's more, I don't think that's like the way I sort of took all that stuff is it's more like you said, because they're both outsiders, and like they seem like they're the only two people in this novel that have the same sort of outlook on stuff. And I just sort of assumed it was more like, because Enid's having this whole like, I don't like any men at all, except maybe Josh. And it felt more like it was like them trying to deal with whatever shit they've got going on sexually in their heads. And there's sort of this, I don't know. I don't think either of them were ever into each other.
No, and like, you know, there's scenes where like one has her head on the other, which again that just feels very like what friends would do.
Yeah, I think that's a friend thing.
Yeah.
Well, and
although I'm not going to put my head on your chest, Liam.
Why not?
I don't want to.
But it would be so cute.
Oh. Yeah, that could be our new Twitter banner profile picture.
To be fair, that would be hilarious. So maybe we should do that.
You should probably do that.
Yeah.
And maybe Cat can be in the background, just like staring at you weirdo.
Just looking annoyed. No, we'll make her take the picture.
I will say, like, from a female standpoint, like the thing about where they're like, ugh, you know, no guy will like me, maybe I'm a lesbian. I had friends in college, like I had one particular friend who, whenever either one of us would have like an issue with a guy, she'd be like, maybe I'm a lesbian now, or maybe you should be a lesbian now. And then she'd be like, ah, crap, never mind. I thought about vaginas. I can't do it.
Fair enough. So that's just a normal thing.
Yeah, that's a normal thing. It's like, fine, I'm going to give up. Just kidding. I don't like those. So I'm going to stick with the penis. But
sorry, I got distracted thinking about lesbians at college.
Jesus Christ.
Are you going to read more comics with lesbian sex stories?
I mean, funny you should say that, because on our to read list there is an amazing one, but Jack keeps putting it off. So, anything else that you want to say about the comic before we move on to the film?
Nothing I can think of.
No, because I could talk about this for like ever, and
I mean, that's okay, because I'm finding it really interesting.
Well, I guess one of the themes that I think throughout the book is this sort of both of them fighting the urge to grow up.
Yeah.
And also, like, it feels very true to that time, like, where you're like 18 or 19 and you're going from being at home or having been in high school and then like that transition to college and starting to realize that maybe you're growing away from these people that you grew up with, and maybe your bond with them is more this shared history versus actual things that are in common.
Yeah.
Like, just this sort of, you know, and you can tell, like, they're both sad about it. Like, even when Rebecca is, like, with her grandma, with her head on her grandma's lap, and you can tell, like, they're both sort of mourning this loss of their friend that's still technically there, but you know, they can tell they're growing apart. And
yeah, do they have a conversation that is effectively that, isn't it? They sort of say, maybe we aren't friends, or something like that.
Yeah.
When they're driving in the hearse.
Yes. I love that she gets a hearse, and it makes me want to like ask Enid, are you a fan of Harold and Maude? If you're familiar with that movie at all, but
I am. I don't think Jack is.
No.
It's a shame. It's a good film, Jack.
I'm sorry.
That's alright. You've got time.
But yeah, I really enjoyed the graphic novel.
Same. Okay, we'll circle back to the graphic novel, but then if we talk about the film and compare the two, I probably will have a lot more to say.
Okay.
So, because I think you watched the film first as well, didn't you, Jack?
Yeah, because I got confused about what.
Yeah, so we all watched the film before reading the graphic novel, which like I was curious if someone reads the graphic novel first and then watches the film, if it affects the way they view it.
I would.
Yeah, well, I was really excited because I thought I'd be doing it the opposite way to what you two had done. So I was like, oh, this will be good.
Yeah, and you didn't.
Whoops.
That's alright though. So the first time I saw the film, probably about 10 years ago now, it was on TV late at night. I started watching it and I just couldn't turn it off. Like, I had school the next day. It was like 1 a.m. and it had just started, and there was I had to watch it, and it was so good. But then I've noticed as I've watched it growing up, like I used to have a huge crush on Thora Birch, and I thought she was amazing in the film, like the character of Enid. Mm-hmm. But then when I like more recently rewatched it, I was like, actually, she's kind of not. Like, it feels like an anti-coming of age film where it feels like Enid's the main character, but she doesn't really progress throughout the film. She just stays the same, and all of the kind of secondary characters around her have their own arcs and their own progressions. And there's times where she almost feels like she's trying to actively hold them back, which felt very different to the book.
But she does, I don't know, because in the film, like when you look at how they start, I know like Becky clearly grows up faster than Enid does. But if you look at Enid at the start of the film, where she's like suggesting they, you know, call, I can't remember who Steve Buscemi plays, the character.
Seymour.
Sorry, Seymour, yep. When she's like, because she's the one that's like, oh yeah, we should call him, and she's the one that actually does the call and is being a dick. And then later on, she clearly feels fucking terrible about doing that. And I don't know, it definitely felt like she grew, because she doesn't want to do the mean stuff anymore. Even though she's still trying to be, you know, counterculture, she's like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be a dick about it.
No, I don't know if I agree with that, though, because then later on, like again, and this is also in the book, she leaves that note at Josh's place where it's like, we came over to fuck you, but you weren't in, therefore you were gay.
Yeah, but that's not as I'm talking about way later on, like, because the we wanted to fuck you, Josh thing, that's not mean.
I mean, it is, considering like his parents could have found that.
Liam, I don't think it's as mean as calling a guy who's clearly got depression and saying,
mean,
"Oh, hey, I'm that girl that you really wanted to fall in love with, and I'm gonna fall in love with you." I think that might be meaner.
I didn't realise we were competing over which bit was meanest.
No, I'm just saying that they can still have evolved. Like, you're a dick to me all the time, Liam, but I think you're a nice person, maybe.
Yeah, but that's neither here nor there, really.
I also don't think that Josh lives with his parents.
Yeah, I mean, that felt more like the case in the book than in the film. The film, you don't really see a lot of his life, I guess, whereas in the book, I think there's a scene where they're over at his watching TV.
Yeah, like, I get the sense that maybe he was, like, a year older than them, since they've just graduated high school in the film, and you don't see him at the weird graduation after party that has never happened of any graduation that I know of. So I did wonder, like, do you think that's what happens at, like, U.S. graduations, that there's, like, a dinner afterwards with everyone from the class? Because it's not. That's not what happens. People have their own individual graduation parties and only invite the people that they like.
Yeah, you don't turn up to a place where everyone hates each other.
No.
Oh, that's interesting.
I quite like that scene, though, where I think it's Enid who's talking about how sad it is, like, when you actually think about the fact that they're probably not going to see a lot of these people again.
Oh.
How it's actually sad.
Yeah, I think that is a great scene. And I think there is a truth to that. But, I mean, realistically, that happens, like, at graduation, not at a sad party.
But, okay,
But yeah, I got the sense that like Josh was maybe a year older and already had his own apartment or something.
Okay. Yeah, I think that definitely comes across more in the book than the film.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd assumed that from the film. Not the year older, but I definitely assumed... No, I'm just saying...
Jack's so clever with his assumptions.
I like that when Liam makes a counterpoint to anything I believe, he's like, it's alright if we have different views, don't worry about it. But the moment I have a different view, Liam's like, oh, good job, Jack.
Yeah.
Whatever, Liam.
Because my views tend to not be nonsensical.
Whatever.
Go on, Jack, carry on with your point you were making.
No, fuck you.
Well, there's no need for that. Come on,
I'm being very Ghost Worldy, Liam. Fuck you.
Right, okay. Do you also hate yourself?
Yes.
Cool. Okay, so one thing, I guess probably the biggest difference between the film and the book is the character of Seymour, who barely seen in the book. I don't think he's even given a name, or it might be a different name.
Well, I think he's an amalgamation of Bob Skeeches and the guy that they call up on the blind date. And the film was partly written by the author, Daniel Clowes, so I think he wanted to flesh out that character more for the film. Yeah,
that makes sense.
Because he's like he's one of the main focuses of the film.
Yes.
Like, other than the two girls.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do quite like his kind of story arc throughout the film, where it's like he's kind of taken advantage of, and he's so helpless that he just kind of goes along with it, not really fully knowing why, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, because everyone tells him sort of what to do, and he'll do, like, when he meets the girl finally, and she's like, well, you can't keep... Or she doesn't say it, but he's like, I can't speak to you anymore, Enid, because how do I explain it?
Yeah.
And then he's like, oh, maybe Enid loves me, and maybe I should leave my new girlfriend. I felt bad for him.
So, okay, what did we... Like, Jack, for example, what did you think of the film?
I thought the film was good. I preferred it to the graphic novel, but only slightly.
Okay. And Amanda?
Well, similar to you, Liam, the first time I saw this movie was several years ago, and again, I think I ran across it late at night on like a cable channel.
Yeah.
And once I checked that it was a cable channel that wouldn't cut out curse words, then I was like, record. I'm going to watch. And I really just was struck by the film. And I also, I mean, much as I do enjoy the graphic novel, I do like the film a bit more. And I think part of that is because of the character of Seymour.
Yeah, he's so good.
Yeah, I mean, I love Steve Buscemi anyway, but there's just something about his character in this. And then I always forget, like, some of the support. Like, I always forget David Cross is in this movie until he pops up at the weird record party. And I'm like, oh, there's David Cross.
Oh, but I love him in it as well, though, just trying to hit on Rebecca.
It's not going well for him. And he just keeps trying.
No. Also, the dude who appeared in, like, a couple of Red Hot Chili Pepper music videos as the guy that comes into the shop topless.
Oh, the one with the
like hillbilly dude.
Yeah. Yeah, like the first time I ever saw him, I think he was in I can't remember what song it was for, but he's definitely in a Red Hot Chili Pepper video song video where he's trying to like get into a gig of theirs. He's trying to like climb a fence and stuff. I'll just be quiet.
No, I just don't know which Red Hot Chili Peppers videos those are.
Dave Sheridan is the guy. He's in the music video for By the Way and Universally Speaking.
Okay.
So yeah, he is the guy that plays Doug.
Yeah, he looks way more handsome in his IMDb picture than he does in a mullet with no shirt and a white beater.
Yeah. But like, he looks pretty built. Like he's rocking that six pack.
True. He always looks like some character from Reno 911.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like I feel like he would fit in that world also.
Yeah, I liked him in this. Don't really know the point of it apart from like some jokes. Like it's a bit funny. But I did like his scenes.
Yeah, I wonder if it's just to sort of add to the whole idea of like bizarre characters in this world. Because there's so many sort of weird, just like side and like tertiary characters in the novel, like in the graphic novel, that I wonder if because the author did write the screenplay was like, yeah, I want some of those in here. So, you know,
Yeah.
like throw him in and throw in like the weird classmate who keeps randomly running into them, and even though she looks like she's like a 45-year-old woman.
Yeah. The art teacher is also amazingly weird in the film.
Well, Ileana Douglas is amazingly weird in general.
Yeah. The first time you see her and she's playing that like short film that she's created, just amazing.
Oh, Jesus. Honestly, that whole bit with the art class just reminded me so much of doing art in high school because I did it as a GCSE, I think. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I can't remember. But and it was literally, I got good at doing. We used to do artist research where you had to pick an artist and then like write about their work and, you know, what it means. And I've never understood that with art. I don't get it when people are like, oh, they're trying to display this emotion. And I'm like, no, it's a canvas with a tear in it. Let's be real. And so I got really good at just bullshitting. And the way the art teacher talks in this film, I was like, oh yeah, that's what artists are doing.
Yeah.
Like when she's looking at people's work and she's like, oh, this piece is incredible, and the kid's like, oh, it's just from a video game, and she's like, oh, I thought it was your dad. I was like, oh yeah.
Also, there's a scene later on where they're trying to like make a mold or something of someone's head.
Oh yeah, and he's dying.
Yeah,
I can't breathe.
There's little lines like that I think on my first like viewing I totally missed, and then when I went back, there's just so much more to this film to like pick up on.
Well, and when Enid walks in there, she's also going like, well, if this is your first death mask, like,
Yeah.
why are you doing multiple death masks? Like, I don't get it. Yeah, she's a complete kook, and I love it.
Yeah.
And then, well, also her Bob Balaban as Enid's father, and then Terry Garr as like this weird wet blanket. And every time I see that, I see her pop up, I'm always like, oh right, Terry Garr is in this movie, because I always forget, because I instantly think of Young Frankenstein or Close Encounters of the Third Kind. Like, I always forget that she's in this movie.
Who does she play in this movie? I'm blanking.
She plays.
Is she Maxine?
Yeah, the girlfriend of Enid's mom, or Enid's dad.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes. I just didn't know the actress's name.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah, that's Terry Garr, who doesn't do a lot now, but, you know, did a ton of stuff in the 70s.
She does play this, like... She does play this kind of, like, almost like stepmother figure, where she's not necessarily doing anything wrong, but you still have this, like, inkling to not like her.
Mm-hmm. Well, she's like a...
Yeah, well, she seems interested in what Enid's been... She's like, oh, I feel like I helped raise you, so I'm really interested in what you've become. And Enid's just like, fuck you.
Yeah. Also, I loved the stuff with the record in the movie, where she gets the record from Seymour and then just gets obsessed with it and plays it over and over again. Because that definitely is something that I could relate to as a teen. Like, when you find a song and then you just have to listen to it constantly.
Yeah. Well, the way
Yeah.
she becomes obsessed with anything like that, like, you can tell, like, her obsession before that was, like, Indian music from the 1960s.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then this is, like, her new obsession.
How did we feel... Yeah. How did we feel about the cook's chicken element to it?
Well, I feel like being an American and the current political climate that we have here, it definitely plays differently having watched it earlier today versus the last time I watched it, when there was nobody thought that we would have a Trump presidency or the issues with racism that we're having in this country. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's what she says, like when she's sort of bullshitting her way through explaining why she brings it to art class. I mean, I think that's true, that people try to brush away the racism that is systemic here in the U.S. And the way that, you know, I don't know, like from somebody who likes art and doesn't try to shy away from the more difficult, like, discussions of it, I'm like, damn it, I wish Enid had been there to, like, shut down all of those, like, middle class people, like, who are just like, oh, this is offensive. And it's like, well, yeah, that's kind of the point, is look at these offensive things that we did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess it's kind of like whitewashing, isn't it? Where it's like, well, if we just kind of ignore that, and we've changed the name a little bit, it's all good.
Mm-hmm. Well, and also, there are no black people in this movie, which brings up its own issues that it's dealing with that, and there's not really any...
True, but also there's not in the book, is there?
No. Like, at one point, I was actually going to ask this I forgot, in the book, they mention, like, oh, she's a Jap a couple times. Do you know what that stands for?
Yeah, Japanese, right?
No. Jewish...
No?
No, it stands for Jewish American Princess.
What the heck? I didn't know there was... What?
Yeah, that's why I forgot, because I realized that may not be a thing that you are aware of. But that...
No, it's not.
That is not she's not using a slang term for a Japanese person.
Yeah, I was very confused by that. I was like, why are they suddenly calling her Japanese? Yeah. Okay, this makes more sense now.
Yeah, they're calling them Jewish American princesses.
Oh.
Oh, I didn't know that. Was there another bit where I think Rebecca's referred to as like a wasp or something?
Yes.
Or did I just imagine that?
Yes. Do you know what WASP is? It's
No.
White Anglo-Saxon Protestant.
Oh.
And is typically...
Learned something today.
Yeah, so I guess those are important terms to know to understand what they're talking about.
Yeah, those scenes suddenly make a little bit more sense.
Yeah, so like the waspy thing is normally associated, especially with like blonde, like very Aryan, blonde upper class, and you hear it a lot talking about like high society in like New York City or Boston. On the East Coast in the U.S. And then,
okay.
So like the counterpart to the WASP, and then the Jap is the Jewish American Princess, White Anglo-Saxon Protestant. Like they're kind of these two sides of like the same idea of a person, like somebody who's very privileged and spoiled, and the idea that sort of like mommy and daddy take care of it all for you.
Okay.
Yay, cultural differences.
Yeah, that's something that, like, I guess didn't really, for me at least, come across that well, not knowing those things.
Yeah, and whereas those are terms I grew up knowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess, like, one of the things that I thought was an interesting difference between the book and the film was how the kind of catalyst for what causes the argument between Enid and Rebecca, where, like, Rebecca's very much, let's move in together, let's get jobs, whereas in the book they both seem to kind of come to that conclusion together, that they are kind of drifting apart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it feels more like college, like Enid going to college is the bigger issue in the book, whereas...
Yeah, like it really barely feels like an issue in the film.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in the film, Enid sort of... For most of the film, Enid doesn't seem like she wants to go. Whereas in the book, it's like she wants to go but hasn't told Rebecca.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the film, it seems like Enid as a character is less concerned with her future than Enid in the book.
Yeah.
And there's something, I don't know, to me in the film, like they're growing apart. I don't know, it's more noticeable because I guess Seymour is a factor in there, that Enid is hanging out with Seymour more than she is with Rebecca, and there's, I think, some like jealousy there of, hey, you're going off and doing your own thing and I don't want you to do that, but at the same time I want you to grow up and do your own thing so we can get an apartment together.
Yeah,
it definitely feels like that's a big element of like Rebecca's character is very much, let's do this adult thing, and Enid's just like, nah, I'm not ready for that.
Yeah.
Do we think, is there a message that the writer, like, clearly there is, but is it to just grow up or not?
I mean, what do you think it is, Jack?
All the grown-ups in this seem broken. Like, this whole town is mostly made up of broken people who all act weird. Maybe it's just to leave. Maybe we should all just leave, guys.
Yeah, one of the things in the book that I thought was very, I guess, strange was that whole subplot with one of their friends who has the ex-Catholic priest.
Oh, yeah.
He's in the film as well, isn't he? He's the shithead in the film.
Yeah, he's the...
Yeah, but there's nothing about the priest in it, in the film.
No, the priest is totally cut out of the film, yeah.
Yeah, I wonder why.
Yeah, weird, that one.
Because maybe 2001 they weren't ready to talk about priests and children.
Yeah, I mean, that just felt like a really, again, like being so familiar with the film, reading that in the book, it felt like a really odd inclusion.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I get it, because it's that kid is like, he knows that what the priest is doing is wrong, but he's using it to, I don't know, not get famous, but he's using it as like a way to get exposure almost. Because he's like happy that the priest has been caught doing something wrong and knows it's wrong, but is like, yeah, I'm going to go defend him, because then I get on TV.
Well, I think he's supposed to be sort of like the male version of Enid, but showing that whereas Enid does have a conscience and sometimes like feels bad about what she does, like in the book when she leaves the giant tip for Weird Al at the restaurant. And, you know, there's like little touches of things where, okay, she is a human, whereas I forget the character's name, but that guy, you know, he's like, I don't fucking care. Like, yeah, I'll go on TV and defend a child molester. You know, it's, I think what Jack said, like, he wants to be famous, but also it's like he has no conscience. He's just ready to be a full-on asshole all the time.
So what do you think it's all about, Jack?
I don't know. I don't know if I learnt anything.
Because to me, it definitely feels like an anti-coming-of-age film, where the main character very deliberately, again, more from the film than the book, the main character very deliberately doesn't really... I don't think they really learn a lot. Because I think...
But I think is it not, like, the ending, even in the film, is the ending not them sort of accepting that they are becoming adults?
Yeah, but then she just gets on a bus and fucks off.
Yeah, but I think that's her being like, I'm moving on, sort of thing.
See, that's not how I read that, as her just being like, I'm running away, basically.
But her in the film, her and Becky are together when that happens, right? Because they're both sitting. Are they both sitting on the bench?
Wait, at the end?
Are they not? Am I remembering that wrong? Shit.
No, they are sitting on the bench when she comes out from like seeing Seymour the last time.
Yeah.
And that's when, you know, Becky's like, oh, I'm going to be late for work. And then it's after that Enid, like,
oh, yeah,
goes and...
I'm getting the two scenes mixed up. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the impression I got is she did just leave that telling anyone, which, again, feels like a very, like, selfish thing to do. Because you think, like, her dad is obviously the sort of parent that cares about her and would worry about her.
Yeah, but I didn't get the impression she's running away, though. I don't think it's like... Like, if she is running away, that's the calmest I've ever seen someone run away from home, just like very casually sit on a bench and wait for a bus.
I don't think it's like a dramatic thing either. I think it's something that is almost like to a degree pre-planned, and that she's like, right, I'm just going to leave and start again, because she mentions it earlier. So I don't think, like, when you say, oh, she's running away, it sounds like they've had a big argument and then she's just running away. Whereas I think it's a very like deliberate thing that she's doing there, but it still just feels like she is running away from this life of hers.
Yeah, I think she's trying to fulfill that fantasy of just essentially like running away and starting over somewhere else fresh. Because she says that to Seymour when she goes over to his place and they have sex. It's like, let's just leave. I've always wanted to just leave.
Yeah. Do you think it's she's just so tired of putting on this front and kind of portraying this character that she feels like if she just leaves, she can do a fresh start and be maybe more truthful to who she actually is? Because that comes across more in the book than the film, I think.
Yeah.
But I wonder if she acts the way she does because that's how she thinks people expect her to act.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. Like, because I guess one of the things I like about both the film and the movie is that the ending is sort of left open for the interpretation of, like, the viewer or the reader.
Yeah.
And I like narratives that do that leave it sort of like up to you.
Yeah, no, I'm the same. I think that's one of the reasons why I liked the film so much, was because it doesn't really have a sense of closure to it in the kind of more traditional, typical, we're all happy at the end. It is a very like melancholic ending, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
So did we all preferred marginally, I mean, for me it was a bit more than marginally, but the film to the book. Is there anything that you think the book did better than the film?
I think in some ways the book does a slightly better job at showing how close Rebecca and Enid are early on. Like, there's just something about, and I just think it's kind of how the book progresses. You see this, like, closeness, maybe a little bit more, like, how much they're hanging out together. But at the same time, also, I don't know. Like, at the same time, it's also, like, Enid is very much a little more domineering in the book.
Yeah. I feel like, while I think Enid is definitely, like, the main character in both, I think we see more of Rebecca in the book than we do in the film. Like, we see things more from her point of view better, I think.
Yeah.
Although one of my favourite scenes is when they have the apartment and she's trying to, like, be really amped up and excited about it, and she's showing Enid the fold-out ironing board.
Uh-huh.
I love that scene.
Yeah, there's something, like, adorable yet tragic about that scene.
Yeah. I guess it's like it's trying to kind of be excited about growing up, which is kind of an impossible thing.
Because being an adult sort of sucks.
Yeah, like once you hit like the drinking age and that age where you can pretty much do whatever you want, then you just want to stop. Like everything else is just taxes and bills and health problems and then death.
Yeah. Well, and it's sort of like they're fighting against it in a way. Like, they're definitely not innocent, but their biggest, like, things that they're dealing with is like, oh man, those people that might be Satanists, let's follow them in the grocery store. Yeah,
and laugh at what they're buying.
Yeah.
So, this is something else that I think is touched on more in the book than the film. It seems to be implied that the Satanists break up.
Yeah.
What, like, I don't know if it came up when you were leading the discussion, but is that kind of about anything?
That did not come up in the discussion. I don't know if it's more of, like, their realization that to them, like, them as in Enid and Rebecca had this sort of fantasy about who those people were. And then to see it crushed that they're just normal people and that, you know, he clearly cheated on her and took off to Florida. Like,
yeah,
I think it's a reminder of, oh, we live in the real world, and even if we want to believe these crazy things about people, they're just people, and that means we're just people.
Yeah. I think the more I think about it, the more I feel like this story is all about how you project yourself, and then how you see others, and how you kind of, like, I feel like Enid and Rebecca both take things at face value with other people and don't necessarily think to, like, look much deeper.
Yeah, definitely.
Did you remember your point you wanted to make, Jack?
No.
Okay. You sound so glum.
Yeah, because I remember it being a good point. Let's all pretend I did a really good point, and we all thought it was very impressive.
That was amazing.
Well done, Jack.
Thanks, guys.
You've made me rethink my stance on this entire thing.
I do think, Jack, you made a point when Liam was asking you about, like, what is this about? You said, like, all these people are broken. I kind of think that's sort of the point. It's like, people are broken.
Yeah. It's like, it's a weird portrayal of people in a film and a book, like, graphic novel, because usually, you know, there's, like, the sensible adult, and the only one who's, I think the only adult I can think of especially in the graphic novel that's, like, anywhere near to not being that is her dad, and he clearly has something wrong because he's going back with this woman.
What about Josh?
I don't know if Josh is broken because he lets everyone push him around.
Okay.
Like, they still have the scene where they force him to drive them to wherever and stuff. Like,
well, and he doesn't make the choice between Rebecca and Enid. He again lets them push.
Yeah, they both just go. Enid's like, I love you, and he's like, oh, I love you too. And then Rebecca's like, hey, we should have sex now.
Well, and even Rebecca's like, damn it, I think he likes Enid better than me. But he's such a pushover that he's not going to do anything about it.
But yeah, I thought that Scarlett Johansson was good in this, like, in a very, like, understated performance, I think.
Yeah, I haven't seen much of ScarJo apart from, you know, the famous stuff that she does now, but this character that she plays feels very different.
Have you ever seen Lost in Translation?
Have I, Liam? I don't know.
It's got Bill Murray in it.
Maybe not.
I
would suggest you do.
I should watch that movie.
Have you not seen it?
Well, okay. I sort of saw it in college when I was making out with a guy in a dorm room. So I don't think that counts because we weren't really watching the movie.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough.
Yeah.
So I've seen parts of Lost in Translation.
You've sort of seen it.
It doesn't really count. I was 18 and young and dumb, so.
I mean, we've all had that sort of experience, I'm sure.
I'm sure.
Like, I once invited someone over and wanted to make out with them, but I thought the right film to put on would be The Evil Dead. So that was a weird whole afternoon, basically.
Yep. That's a different... Yeah, Lost in Translation, at least for me, being like a girl that was obsessed with film, and this guy's like, oh, come to my dorm room and watch Lost in Translation. I was like, okay, that sounds great.
This was before the days of Netflix and chill, wasn't it? That'd be very different.
Oh, yes. To date myself, that was 2004. Long before Netflix and chill was a thing. It was like, come over to my dorm room and watch an indie movie. On DVD.
I mean, whatever works.
Possibly VHS.
And Jack, when was the last time you sort of like stopped paying attention to a film to take care of other matters?
I think at uni I made out with a girl to Indiana Jones, possibly. I was trying to remember what film it was. I know there was a film on.
Yeah,
I was very
sure
panicky about where my
this.
hand should be, which was, by my side, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Please help.
Oh, poor Jack. You need a girl.
Yep, I know.
I have single friends, but they live far away.
We have tried, haven't we, Jack?
I don't want your help, Liam.
Also, saying it like that sounds like me and you have tried something that didn't work well.
Hey, that would fit with the fan fiction I wrote.
That's
true.
That's very true. I'm sure, Jack, the right person is out there, and maybe...
How has it turned back to this again?
Maybe they're listening right now, and if you think you're that lucky girl, just pop us an email, really.
Good.
There'll be details on how to
Fantastic.
do that at the end of the show.
What do we rate Ghost World?
Alright, film or book?
The book was the main focus, so let's do the book first.
Okay.
Who do you want to start?
I don't know.
Amanda,
Do you want to go first,
Yeah,
Amanda?
sure.
You
Since I suggested it, I would put Ghost World, the book, at a 4 out of 5.
Okay, I'll see that.
Like, I could
Jack?
see issues with it, but I really, really like it.
Yeah, that's fair enough. I think I'd give it a 3.5.
Fucking
Just
hell,
because-
guess what, Jack?
Do we agree, Liam?
We've agreed again.
Oh my goodness.
Wow. So go on, why 3.5?
Because I enjoyed it, but there were a couple of bits in there where I started to not like lose interest, but some of the stories I was like, there were pages where I was like, I don't really get why I'm here. That makes it sound a lot worse than what I mean, but I'm very bad at explaining what I'm thinking.
Like, do you mean like story-wise? Like, I don't get what this is telling me about the story. That I'm reading.
Yeah. Like, there's obviously stuff that's forwarding the story, and then you get to a couple of pages where I'm like, this isn't forwarding anything for me. I don't know. It sounds a lot more negative than what I mean. What did you give it, Liam? 3.5. Yeah.
3.5. And sort of, again, I think it's just because I really struggled to separate my love for the film with the book. So while I liked the book, and I did appreciate some of the things it did differently, there was other things like, well, I just kind of felt like either the film did it better, and I was like, well, I wish the book had that idea or gone down that road. And then I think when the book was doing things different, it was kind of hit and miss to me. Like when the book kind of did its own thing, like the stuff with the child molesting priest, that to me just felt really like, it kind of felt like it was put in there for the sake of shocking.
Yeah, I can see that.
So yeah. There was just a couple of things where I felt like the film, what the film did well was not only kind of dig down to the actual point of the book and what the book was trying to get across, but then also created a lot of stuff to support that point, that it drew from either like really small moments in the film that it then expanded on, or like entirely created for the film. So the book, therefore, like in comparison, was still fine, but just I couldn't help but be a little disappointed.
I can understand that when you were coming from being such a big fan of the film. I think part of why I enjoy the book so much is because I did have to like really dive into it and lead a discussion on it for like well over an hour in a class. So
yeah,
I really focused on...
I think what I do like is, I like that there is so much to talk about within it. Like, we've just had however long of a discussion.
Mm-hmm.
So, the film?
Do you want me to go to first
Amanda,
again?
do you want to... Yeah, do you want to go first?
The film, I guess I'll do 4.5 out of 5. Because, like I said, I like it a little bit better than the book.
Yeah.
And I love just sort of like the oddities of it. Even though it's not a perfect film, you know, there are things like the nunchuck shirtless guy that's sort of like, why are you here? But still really enjoyable and one that I'm happy to watch repeatedly.
Definitely.
Yeah, there's a sort of pattern that I'm noticing, because yours has gone up by 0.5 for the film, and I give the film a 4, which is 0.5 up from my graphic novel rating.
Yeah, we disagree here now, Jack.
Oh, is yours going to be like 5?
No, 4.5 for the film. I do find... I found my view of the film has changed as I've got older, but I'm at the stage now where I find Enid like a little annoying and hard to like in places.
Yeah, well, as you've sort of grown into a little old man, you've started to really hate classic teenagers.
Yeah, maybe. We've had some correspondence about Ghost World, which I totally forgot about.
Oh, yeah.
So, friend of the show, Cat Fyson, she emailed us. She said, I think the film is pretty good. It's quirky, for lack of a better word. ScarJo is my highlight, but Thora Birch is good too, even though her character annoys the hell out of me.
Yeah, well, Cat is a little old lady, so that makes sense.
She's not going to like that you said that. And then...
I know.
Other friend of the show, Mr. Mark Dawes, he said... He kind of posed a question for us to consider. He said, do you think the film would have been more interesting if it followed a more empathetic and likeable character, such as Scarlett Johansson's or Steve Buscemi's?
No, I think it would have been less interesting.
Yeah, I agree. It would have been less interesting because I think part of the point is that she is unlikable.
Yeah, I think if you'd have gone down that road, you'd have had more of a like protagonist-antagonist like traditional thing. Like, because I think seeing her from someone else's eyes would not have gone well for her.
No. Well, and I think in somebody else's hands, like, they could have changed, like, a different director, or if they'd gotten somebody else to write the script, it could have gone that way. But then I also think it could have gotten into, like, kind of schmaltzy stuff.
Yeah. Because, I mean, if you think about it, just looking at her character through, like, Rebecca's eyes, Rebecca's like, this person has said to me, we'll move in together, I'll get a job. I've gone and got a job, I've found an apartment, I've done all this stuff. They're just fucking around doing whatever the hell they want and aren't really taking it seriously. So that would be annoying. And then if you looked at her through Steve Buscemi's eyes, it's like, well, I'm this lonely dude. There's this, like, teenage girl with cracking pair of tits who's throwing herself at me. Of course I'm gonna, do the thing.
And she also tells him that she's gonna move in with him.
Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah. And I think particularly through his eyes, she comes across as horrible.
Yeah, and he's the one that's the least upset with her.
Yeah.
But he also ends up in therapy and living with his mom.
That's true. He doesn't have a great ending, as in happy.
Do you think the scene where he's in the hospital and she comes and kind of explains herself, do you think that scene does enough to redeem her?
I don't think the point of it is to redeem her. I think it's her realising that she's been a dick. Like, I don't think the point is to be like, oh, everything she's done's forgiven. I think it's more like she realises that she can't keep, like, fucking with his emotions. And then he forgives her. But it's not like a, one for one, everything's fine now.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I like that scene. I like when she's like, you're my hero. And how she's drawn all of these, cartoons of him. But, yeah, I don't know if it's really a redemption fully, because like she clearly realizes that she's been a dick, but at the same time, I think we go back to, I don't know that she's fully learned a quote-unquote lesson, other than she needs to go off and do her own thing.
Yeah. Okay.
What do you think, Liam?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think that it kind of redeems... I think it's her attempt at redemption. Like, I think from her perspective, she realises she's kind of fucked up, and this is her trying to make amends. But the fact that she doesn't, like, follow it through and then just leaves, to me, is the indication that she hasn't really learned from it. Because I feel like the kind of better thing to do would have been to kind of, like, be his friend and support him. And the fact that she just fucks off and he kind of ends up...
Yeah, but she is... You've got to remember that she's, like, meant to have just come out of high school.
I get
like,
that.
That would be a shit lesson for, like, teenagers. Like, yeah, you're about to start your real life as an adult, but if you've accidentally done anything, make sure that you stay and become friends with the crazy people.
Yeah, I get that. And I think it's definitely an attempt at redemption. I just don't think it's enough, considering what she's put him through.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but if it were a full-on redemption, again, I think it wouldn't be the same film, and I don't know that I would like it as much.
Yeah, definitely. Well, thank you for recommending that.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys enjoyed it and didn't hate it.
I mean, it's always 50-50 with us, isn't it?
Well, I knew that you liked the film, Liam, but I know that the book is different. So I was like, oh, they could hate this.
Yeah, and I was worried because I knew that there wouldn't be like aliens and shit in it for Jack.
I don't know where this has come from, but this assumption that that's all I like.
That you just like weird sci-fi shit.
I do like weird sci-fi shit, but I also like normal things. This isn't particularly normal. I realised that I wasn't really defending myself there, but...
That's fair. Amanda, where can people find you on the internets?
Oh, yes. Well, on Twitter, I am at Manda Ailey, which is MandaAiley. And I also have my own podcast, The Oscars Are My Super Bowl, which you can find on Facebook. And on Twitter, it is at Oscars, letter R, My Super Bowl with no vowels. And
it's worth listening to. Both me and Jack have listened, and we can, vouch that it's good.
Aw, thanks, guys. Yeah, and the new episodes of that come out on Wednesdays and Saturdays.
And if we're really good, we might get to guest on that in the future.
Mm-hmm.
We did discuss a potential idea for a film we could do, but we weren't sure if you'd seen it.
What movie?
Go on, Jack.
Buckaroo Banzai?
I've not seen Buckaroo Banzai.
That could be an option then.
We should do that.
Do you want to give the full title, Jack?
Oh, fuck, I can't remember the full title.
The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai Across the Eighth Dimension. So I think that's what we're currently considering, isn't it?
Yeah.
And to be honest, we're probably going to stick with that, because once we've made a decision, we don't like to change it.
Yeah, that's what people say about me and Liam. We stick to our guns.
Yeah. They say that, and they also say quite good, surprisingly good looking, I think they say.
I've heard that.
Yeah. On the grapevine.
Yeah.
I tend to hear it like as I walk past people, I hear them whispering like behind my back. It's okay, guys, you can tell me.
Well, before you get too self-aggrandizing, Liam, I'm gonna do where people could message us.
Yeah, there's one thing that I've realised that we haven't discussed yet, Jack.
Oh shit! What we're doing next time, Liam? What are we doing next time?
Next time, Jack, in honour of it coming back after I think a 25-year break later this year, we are going to do the first 3 episodes of season 1 of Twin Peaks.
Cool.
Have you seen any of them before?
Nope, never.
I watched the pilot like late last year and kind of then got distracted with other things. So hopefully the rest will be good enough to keep my attention this time.
Yep, let's hope so.
Have you seen Twin Peaks at all, Amanda?
I have not, but I've been wanting to, and my husband really likes the show. So this will be an opportunity for me to watch that, and maybe one of the only chances I'll have in the next few months to watch something other than films.
Yeah. A lot of films.
Mm-hmm.
So, Jack, where can people find us if they wanted to?
If people want, they can tweet us at nerdonnerd, or they can email us at nerdonnerdpod@gmail.com. You can also find our Facebook page at facebook.com/nerdonnerdpod, because we've just found that out. Or you can go and watch our YouTube videos, which are, good. And you can do that by maybe searching Nerd on Nerd, but if that doesn't find us, you can search Nerd on Nerd Episode 1 Fleshlight.
And if they enjoyed the show, what could they do to kind of show that? Apart from obviously tweeting us nice things.
You could go on iTunes and you could give us a little rating, and we'll accept anything. I mean, I say we'll accept. We can't stop you giving us 1 star, but we would be sad.
We'd probably have a go on the next episode if you did that.
Well,
I would.
Fair enough.
I feel like it's been a while since I've actually had a go at our audience for not tweeting us more. And
that's true. Well, that's because you've now decided that the audience loves you, so you're being very careful not to lose them again.
Yeah, but I'm getting annoyed again, Jack, because I was hoping that we'd get some tweets and stuff coming in about Ghost World, and they didn't. And it's like, come on, guys. I know there's members of our audience that have watched Ghost World and possibly read it. Where are they at?
Jesus. Okay.
I'm on the podcast.
That's true. And
yeah.
Thanks for being here, Amanda. We have appreciated
thanks, Amanda.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Anytime.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.